Hi. Well, it's another beautiful day, as always. And today I want to talk about a few things. Number one being forgiveness. Now, I know it's hard to forgive people, other people, and it's hard to forgive yourself. And part of awakening is being okay with what is. When you don't forgive somebody, you're not okay with what is. That's just the way it is. And so, what we want to try and do is to get these unforgivens off of our plate. Okay? And we do that by letting go. So if somebody hurts you, okay, and you don't even have to know that person, okay? Also, aside from that other person, you're probably blaming yourself too. So you have to forgive yourself also. So whatever it is that happened and you feel like you were hurt by it or whatever, you need to forgive. And we do this by going into the now and looking at what happened, not thinking about the past, but looking at what happened. Our brain is capable of bringing that past memory up without, you know, commentary or judging or emotional overlay, and we can see what happened, okay, clearly. And once we do that, then, and of course, all this has to happen in the now. Once we do that, then you can see it's not what you thought it was. You can see that it's not as bad as you thought it was. Because when it happened, you overlaid on top of it a bunch of emotional stuff, okay? And then you added judgments to that, and a lot of other things got added on. And so what actually happened was whatever it was, not what you think it was. So that's how we forgive. And first of all, if you want to be awakened, then you want to love everyone, right? That's what it is. And in order to do that, you have to forgive everyone too, okay? And that means understanding that the person that you think you are and the person they think they are don't exist. It's an illusion, okay? Part of the illusion that keeps you in the dream. And as long as you're holding on to bitter, unfulfilled, whatever, okay, which you are probably, it means you haven't forgiven yourself or the other person that you thought hurt you. Not that they didn't hurt you, I'm sure they did. But that's what has to happen. And we do this just through looking at the past, not thinking about the past, but just looking at it, trying to understand what really happened. Yes, you were hurt by it. That's not a question. Of course you were. But what else happened? What else got added to that hurt? Okay? And most likely it was the human suffering. What happens when we get pain or hurt or whatever it is, okay, we add on to it human suffering. And that human suffering could be in an emotional feeling or a blame situation where you're blaming other people for your problem, whatever it was, or for the situation that you were in at the time. Okay, and that's all good and everything, but it's part of human suffering. And when you complain to other people or even to yourself about the situation and say, "Oh, my life is just crap because of this thing, and therefore I can't forgive anyone," okay? Your life is crap because you made it crap, because this thing happened to you. That's what it is. Okay? I know that seems terrible of me to say, but that is the way it is. Okay? Life is a gift. It's like a dance. And you are dancing it whether you know it or not. Okay? And this gift or dance or whatever you want to call it can be really up to you about what it's going to be. You decide the meaning of the things. Okay? That's it. And, you know, that's what's going on. And as you decide what the meaning is, then you remember it that way. And you reinforce it by saying, poor little me. This terrible thing happened to me, and now my life is just shit. Because I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop remembering the pain. Right? Right. That's what it is. So in order to not go through that for the rest of your life, which I hope you understand that you don't have to go through that, okay? We have to accept what is. And what is not what you think it is. Okay? That's just the way it is. Excuse me. Anyway, so what we want to try and do is accept things as they are, okay? And we can do that by finding out how they are, by going into the now and looking at the past, okay? Without having the whole human contingent of suffering added into the mix of the incident, okay? That's what it is. The human contingent of suffering is all the things that you say to yourself after you had the event and all of the feelings that you laid on top of the event, okay? And the comments and the complaining that you do about it and so on and so forth, okay? And that is as it is. But we can take that human suffering off by getting into the now, okay? And really look at what happened. And then you can forgive the person who did that to you. I'm not saying they're innocent or anything like that. I'm just saying that in order to forgive them, okay, you need to accept what is. First of all, you are a soul, okay? And as a soul, you cannot get hurt, okay? Only a life form can be hurt because your soul is your life. We think of this life as a series of moments going like over 50 years or whatever it is, okay? But that's not what it is at all. Life is the soul you are, okay? And that soul is what life is. And you cannot hurt the soul, you cannot change the soul, or if you can prefer consciousness, you cannot hurt the consciousness, okay? Even if you are beat up and left on the side of the road, so on and so forth. When you wake up, you can still hear and see, right? So the consciousness cannot be hurt, okay? And if you die from whatever terrible thing, okay, the consciousness will not be hurt either because the consciousness will return to the force, the source. Sorry, too much Star Wars. Anyway, the point is, that's the way it is, okay? And so by blaming ourselves and other people for our misfortunes and then holding them accountable by not forgiving them keeps us in the dream. I know that's a hard way of looking at things, but you have to if you want to awaken. As long as you are blaming someone else for anything that happened in your life, I've told you before that we need to take responsibility for everything that happens in our life, and this is very true. And forgiving is a way of doing that. Okay? And we have to forgive ourselves. I know you had something bad happen to you, and you said to yourself, oh, you're such an idiot. Or whatever you said, right? And so, therefore, okay, we have to undo that by saying, it wasn't my fault. I'm not to blame. Because you weren't to blame, because you're a soul. The thing that happened, whatever happened, happened to your mind, happened to your body, which isn't you. But we have to take responsibility for everything that happens to us, because everything that happens to us because we made it happen. I know that's hard to see, but that's the way it is. And so forgiveness is a step along the path. Okay? Maybe your mom and dad did terrible stuff to you, and maybe you feel really bad because of that, and so on and so forth. And you have a right to, absolutely. But you can also forgive them and forgive yourself. Okay? A lot of times when we get hurt, especially as children, we think it's our fault. Which is crazy, isn't it? But that's what we think. Because that's just the way it is. Okay? And, you know, not that it's bad to think that, but it doesn't help you. What you have to do is take responsibility for what you can take responsibility for and forgive everything else. And that is how you awaken. Okay? Really, awakening is just about accepting who you are. Okay? I know that's hard. And letting go of who you're not. Okay? That's really what it is. Okay? As long as you are clinging to who you are not. Okay? Like, for instance, your house. You picture yourself, when you picture yourself in that house or in that car, and that comes with some status, or it comes with something that makes you feel good, right? That new car smell, whatever. Okay? And so that's how you take possession of these things into yourself, make them a part of you. And they're not you, but you think they are. Okay? So what we have to do is accept that the parts of you that are not you, okay, have to be let go. And that includes the illusions that you're under, the illusion of separateness, the illusion of time. Okay? And that's all there is to it. These things have to be overcome, have to be seen through before you can awaken. Okay? And really the first thing we need to do is accept that you're not the one doing the thinking. You're not the one making the decisions, making the plans. Because you are the soul. A beautiful, infinite soul. And so, therefore, the mind is the one making all the plans. Now, some people say, no, I'm the mind. I'm the one making the thoughts. Which is fine. You can say that if you want to or believe it. But it's just not true. Okay? I know it's hard to think of this as something like that. Okay, I get that. But the fact is, you have to let go of the selfishness of saying it's mine. It's a selfish impulse, okay? It's my idea. I came up with it. I'm the author of whatever, okay? Which is an ego trip. And you get an ego boost when you say that, okay? And that's how you know that you are still in the dream, when you get that ego boost. When you awaken, you don't do it for the ego boost. You do it in order to help relieve the suffering. Okay? That is the whole point of being awakened. It gives you the ability to see the suffering, and then you can relieve it. Okay? Or try to relieve it. I mean, I don't know if I'm relieving anybody's suffering with these videos. I'm hoping I am, but that's what I'm doing. And the more people that I can help to get more awake than they are, then the less suffering there is going to be. And once you get out of the wheel of karma, out of the suffering cycle, that's the way it works. It's a cycle, okay? And you start off with um, your life, okay? And you go through your memories, and you find the things that you don't like or that hurt you or whatever it is, okay? And you suffer over them. You turn those things into suffering, okay? And then it just keeps going around. Maybe you only think of it for 10 minutes a day, okay? Or maybe you think of it for an hour a day, or maybe whatever, okay? And it'll go away. You'll stop thinking about it for a while, but then it comes back, okay? And this is the cycle, okay, that we have to get off of. And the way to get off of that cycle is by going into the now and seeing what it is we are doing, seeing how we are affecting other people. You can't see how you're affecting other people in time because you're still in the dream. Okay? But once you're in the now, then you can see what your actions have done to the lives of people around you. Also, this idea of accepting and forgiving yourself and others is part of the awakening. You cannot awaken with this weight of karma. That's what it is. It's a weight of karma, and you're carrying it around. You've been carrying it around for 40 years or 20 years or 30 years or whatever it is. You've been carrying it. And you have got to set down your burden. Just set down the burden of karma. Because when you live under that burden, you're also spreading it around. Okay? Because that's just the nature of being human. When you complain to your son or your grandkid about life, that puts bad memories into their head. And then that's something for them to complain about later in life. Okay? So, that's why the suffering can only be ended by the removal of these things. The removal of believing in hurt that happened years ago and that it's still affecting you now. It's still affecting everything you do. Okay? Because you think, oh, it's a spider. Tiny little spider. You guys probably can't see it. Anyway, but you think that you're to blame, or you think that someone else is to blame, and you have made suffering out of that. Okay? And as long as you're holding on to that blame or suffering, you can't awaken. And so, try and see that it wasn't you who made the decision to go down that alleyway dark at night. It wasn't you who decided to do various things in your life which led to the bad thing happening. Okay? It was the ego. The ego was in control. I know it's hard to think of yourself as a soul that is not in control of your own mind. Well, the soul doesn't really have a mind, but the mind that the soul is part of, I guess you could say. I mean, all these words are very tricky, and it's hard to say what the soul is part of. Or maybe it's not part of anything, it just happens to be what your connection to God is. But either way, it's important to try and see where you're clutching or clinging to this blame and this debt of suffering that you are holding on to because you feel like you got hurt. Okay? Which I'm sorry that happened, but it wasn't as bad as you thought. No matter how bad it was, I'm sure it was bad. It wasn't as bad as you thought. And in order to get rid of this feeling of that your life is shit because of this incident, and now you can't live without fear because you're afraid it's going to happen again, or whatever it is, okay? You have to forgive. Did someone rape you? It's a terrible, terrible thing. But you have to forgive. yourself. I know you probably think to yourself, oh, I'm not blaming me. I'm not the one to blame. But the fact is that you probably are blaming me too. Okay? That's just the way human beings are. So we want to try and let go of the blame. Let go of holding on to this something that is not you. And that's part of awakening. Okay? Accepting that it's not you. Accepting that this mind is not you. Accepting that this body is not you. Not my body, your body. Anyway, that's what you have to do. That's where you have to go. It's hard. Believe me, I know. It's very hard to sort of unattach from your body. Okay? But this body was given to me by the universe, and I'm going to have to give it back. And that's just the way it is. And in its own time, this body will die, and I will return to the source. Okay? And that's all there is to it. So, try and understand this trick that has been played on you by everyone. Okay? It's a trick. You have fallen into the trap of this trick. The trap of blame. The trap of hurt. And try to realize your own divine identity. I know that's hard. I know we've been taught our whole lives that we're this physical form. But it's just not true. Part of us is this physical form. Obviously, this is our life form. Okay? But that's not all there is. Way bigger than this life form is our spiritual identity. And if you can just recognize that that is who you are, then you're going to feel the freedom of that recognition. And part of that is letting go of what is not you. First you have the recognition, then you let go. That's the way it's done. And you can do the work, the inner work that you need to do. I hate to even say work, okay? But it's the inner looking, okay? You're just looking to see what is. And once you have identified the isness, then you're free of the illusion that you thought was what was. Okay? And that freedom feels incredibly good. And the isness is that you are a soul and it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. But regardless of whether or not it was your fault, you're still blaming yourself. Aren't you? And you need to forgive yourself. And you need to forgive the other person that made you feel the way that you didn't want to feel. You know? Like that Red Hot Chili Pepper song. Take me back, away from this feeling. I never want to feel this feeling again. Right? We all feel that way, don't we? Yeah, of course we do. So, try to understand the true nature of you. Is it this psychological personality, which is really something that was laid on top of you by the psychiatrists and the teachers? No, that's not you. Is it the body, which is just atoms flowing through on a constant basis? No, that's not you. Is it the memories, the string of memories? Is that what you are? No. You are the life force of your soul that keeps your body alive. And in order to see that, you have to go into the now. You have to go into the now by breathing, putting all of your attention on the breathing, putting all of your attention on the chi. If you can't find your chi, I'll show you right now. Just hold your hands out in front of you, close your eyes, and pay all your attention into your hands. And as you do that, you'll start to feel a slight tingling sensation. That is your chi. And as you can feel that tingling sensation, you'll find that you can move it. And you can move it up your arm, you can move it down your legs, up into your chest area, and you can use it to heal some of your pain by, when you're moving something, when you're moving the energy, okay, then you can feel where it's blocked. That's pain. And so you just go to that spot in your mind, okay, wherever that spot is where the pain is, and you move your energy to that spot, okay? And in your mind, you rotate the energy, move the energy around and around, and you can use your hand to help you that, because everything you're doing is really happening in the mind, or really the soul, okay? But whatever you do with your body helps. So you can rub the area while you're moving the energy around in it, and slowly the energy will pick up the bad energy and start to move it out. And that's how you do it. And if you guys have any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer them in the comments or on another video. But whatever you choose to pay attention to, whether it's a tree or a single leaf, like this one here, okay? And really pay all your attention into that leaf. Feel the leaf, stroke it, look at the veins. Pay all your attention to that leaf, and that leaf will put its attention back into you. You'll feel the connection with the plant, because everything has soul. Everything has soul, and that soul is available for you to connect with by simply paying attention to something, like a leaf or a tree or a wild animal that happens to wander into your yard. Just pay all your attention into something, and you will enter the now. And then you can really see what your life has been about. Okay? Because the fact is, most of us, 99% of us, just wander through our lives blindly. Okay? And that's a way to live, yes. But you can see by going into now. Really see what your life is, what you're making of your life, and what you can make your life into. And, that's really all there is to it. It's all going on in here, okay? And here. Also, the other thing I want to talk about is opening your heart. Now, mostly we don't open our heart except to our loved ones, which is fine. Good. But you should open your heart to other people besides your loved ones. You see somebody on the street that needs your help. Maybe they don't deserve your help. Maybe they don't deserve whatever, but they need it. And you can feel that need. And you can open your heart to them and give them, without conditions, without any kind of judgment, what they need. And what most people really need is to be seen. To know that someone knows they're alive. And you can do that by opening your heart to someone, by loving them. When you first see someone on the street, you may think, oh, but if you put a little attention into them, you'll see that there's a soul within them, a shining beacon. And you can connect with that soul by giving them some love. It doesn't have to be a lot of love, it could be a little love. But enough love to connect with them. Okay? And that connection is really what it's all about. Well, my time is up. I've loved talking to you guys. I love you all because you're me and I'm you. We're all one consciousness. There's one consciousness running through me. It's the same consciousness that's running through you. And that makes us one. Well, have a great day and a great life.